Welcome to Roundhouse Roulette, a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. I'm Evan Dalton, here with my brother Adam.
What up, what up?
And a man who has jumped a Bronco over an El Camino twice, Mr. Bob Leahy. Well, we'd like to thank you all for joining us as we revisit Chuck Norris's unflinching expose on domestic violence. Today, we'll recap and review Season 4, Episode 16, Juggernaut, where Alex's women's retreat comes under threat from the husband of one of the attendees. But before we grab our fishing gear and hunting knives, hop in our monster trucks and head on down to Stewart Lake, join us as we pull up a stool at CD's Bar and Grill. Well, last week CD's was closed because he ran out of beer. Unfortunately, this week, Dallas and the state of Texas as a whole is reeling from an unprecedented snowstorm that left much of the state without power, with tainted water and with damaged pipes. This episode won't drop for a few weeks, but we would be remiss if we didn't say we're very sorry to see what you're all going through, and we'd just like to say...
Sorry to see everything that's going on down there. I'm actually here in Nashville, and we've got snow as well. Not nearly as bad, but... our heat went out, so we didn't have heat for 36 hours. And luckily, our neighbor is like an HVAC guy, so he was able to walk over and diagnose and fix it the same day because he didn't have to drive through any of the snow. He got us back warmed up. But just not having heat for 36 hours, I can only imagine what people are going through in Texas.
Yeah, and like houses up north where Bob and I are at, like they're insulated and stuff, but down south the insulation isn't nearly as thick because it doesn't have to be. But yeah, so the houses cool down, and they cool down to such an extreme that the pipes are freezing and bursting. It's awful.
It's crazy. We did a little DIY insulation, and we hung comforters and sheets over the windows and stuff. And then we're like, well, I guess we can just heat up this place with the electric stove. So we tried that for a little bit, but that was a big ordeal for us, and that wasn't nearly what they're going through. Just insane. But there still is a good amount of snow even here in Nashville, probably about 6 inches to a foot in some places, I'd say. So I took the opportunity to dust off one of my recent eBay purchases. Do you guys see that there?
Yeah.
I got a Chuck Norris action figure and took him out in the snow and took a glamour shot and posted it up online. Said, of course, Chuck Norris fights the winter blues shirtless. This action figure is from the Karate Commandos cartoon. And he looks like he'd be out in the winter, right?
It definitely does really look like Chuck Norris, though. Like the face. It's surprising considering, like, you know, all the action figures you ever had when you were a kid, and you look at it, it's like, man, that doesn't look anything like Luke Skywalker.
Right, or like we had a Kevin Costner action figure from the Robin Hood movie.
Yeah,
and it does not look like Kevin Costner.
Yeah, but this nails it. But yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'll get a nice glamour shot of him just out in the snow. Posted it up, and we got some feedback from the Talented Slackers on Twitter. Mondo posted up a picture of the version he had, which is another shirtless Chuck Norris action figure, but also pointed out that the cartoon it was based on, the Karate Commandos, is actually on Tubi for free streaming right now. So this is a little public service announcement for people out there. If you're interested in checking out Chuck Norris's cartoon, it's there for free. We'll post a link up to that. And I think we got to get a mini-sode on that at least at some point.
That seems doable.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out.
But I remembered that Mondo and the Talented Slackers, they're in Dallas, so they're going through all this stuff right now. So I was writing them back, and I guess they were out of electricity for a while, but it's coming back for a few of them, not everybody. But they're talking about a water shortage, and the power companies are kind of blaming their users on using too much electricity because the grid can't take it all, which is just crazy, you know what I mean? Because they don't have any reserves from what I've been reading.
Yeah, it's got its own power grid. Yeah. So, you know, under normal circumstances, that allows them to regulate and everything else. And it's not really an issue and kind of a benefit. But in cases like this, it's obviously not working so great. There's kind of no backup.
And is it true, like the actual snow and weather, I'm sure it's knocked down lines, but the real thing is just the load. Like everybody has their heat on in Texas.
Yeah.
It's just, they're just not prepared. And they should.
Yeah.
They wouldn't normally have to be.
It's just crazy. But shout out to the town of the Slackers. So sorry you guys are going through all that. I think they were saying their podcast is going to be delayed, obviously, because they don't have electricity to put it up. But I have no doubt they'll get some stuff up soon. They've actually been rocking through season 3 of Walker. So if you want to check out another take, definitely give them a listen too. But I also found some crazy pictures of stuff just showing how cold it is in Texas right now.
Wow. Yeah.
There's one picture here of someone whose water must be draining from upstairs to downstairs, and there are icicles on the ceiling fan.
Yeah. I think at the beginning, a lot of these people got a lot of flack from Northerners being like, it's not that cold. It's like, yeah, but they're not built for this. Like, I remember the winter I was in Nashville, and it was 30, it got down to like 35 for like a few days, and they shut down schools. Like people were like, don't go into work. And I'm like, what? Why? That's not a big deal. And then they're like, we don't have plow trucks or we don't have ice to put on the roads.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I get it.
The weather that's in Nashville right now, it'd be like, you better be to work on time, buddy. That's how it is up in the north.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's because people can drive safely in those conditions because they have the facility to do so. I can't even get down my road and pray to get back up it. I haven't left this whole week.
Yeah, you're like on a hill, and your driveway is a hill. So, yeah, good move. Yeah, it's definitely the New England way to be like super smarmy about when you see like cars sliding all over the road.
Our instinct is just to make fun of them, right?
We're only human,
so we have to apologize.
But yeah, like it's much like the first snowstorm here. And often it happens in like November or something, and everyone's like, oh, it's just a little snow. But then there are tons of accidents because the roads aren't treated.
But generally in the Northeast, you have electricity through all this. The water in your bathtub is not freezing, you know?
Mm-hmm. There's a photo of a cactus that is coated in ice. It's a very sad cactus.
Mm.
All these pictures, like, yeah, your water in your toilet's frozen. Like, that's the stuff that's scary.
As always, I comb over the Walker news every week, trying to see if there's anything Chuck Norris related or Walker related. And I forgot the new Walker, Jared Padalecki, lives in Texas. And he posted up on Twitter. What did he say there?
Yeah, Jared Padalecki, apparently he's dealing with the hardships in Texas as well. But he says, gonna watch the all-new hashtag Walker with y'all in 25 minutes, ! Now that we've shut off water from our busted pipe and figured out how to stay mostly warm after we lost power, I need to be distracted. Grinning, blushing, smiley face. Hope y'all are safe and sound out there. Double praying hands.
Yeah, so apparently even he was hit. And I don't know, Bob, you want to take that first comment that someone replied onto that post of his?
Well, this is how we know it's Twitter, because the first thing people said something completely negative. Sparkles
McGillic.
I can't even say that.
No, you
I can't say his handle. Yeah, I can't say. Sparkles McGillic said, glad you're rich, but people are literally dying in Texas right now. Weird time to promote your propaganda show.
Yeah, with a name like that, you know they're an internet troll.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of his fans are coming out and say, hey, look, these people are contractually obligated to Twitter post about their episodes and stuff, too.
I mean, do you think he's burning up valuable satellite data to watch his TV show that he acted in on his phone?
He might be. He probably is.
That's a good point. How is he watching this? He doesn't have power.
The whole plan was to have rolling power outages so that people would only be out a few hours. And it's like people are out like days at a time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, maybe he was lucky enough to be able to watch himself on TV.
We can only hope.
Nothing screams potential inequity like like state mandated rolling blackouts of certain regions.
Right. To his credit, Jared has been sharing some places where people can donate and whatnot on Twitter as well. And you know what? If he came out and said, "Hey, guess what, guys? I donated $1 million to this charity," people would shit on him too. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Or if he went to Cancun.
To our knowledge, he didn't go to Cancun. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
To our knowledge, he's sticking it out in Texas.
Yeah, watching himself on TV. Okay.
Right. And as far as I can tell, doesn't he have daughters as well? So.
Mm-hmm. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's cruise on past that.
Womp, 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 womp.
Needless to say, we're thinking of you guys in Texas, and
it seems like everyone's trying to do a little something to help out our friends in Texas, and we're going to do something that is probably more symbolic than actually helpful. So from now until the end of March, we'd like to donate all the proceeds from our t-shirt sales, which are immense, by the way. So you should definitely pick one up whenever you get a chance. They're selling like hotcakes. And when was the last time you bought a hot cake? You should buy one of those too.
Yeah. If people in Texas need hotcakes, and the way to give it to them is if you want to pick up one of our shirts, we're donating all the proceeds from them through March to the relief efforts in Texas via the Red Cross.
We're thinking about you guys down there, down south. Stay warm.
Well, why don't we just check in on the socials here?
Our friend Mignon at the Walker Texas Ranger Picks, she showed that her car from that period of time when she was script supervisor on the show was featured in an episode just as part of like a scene. Okay.
How about featured? I mean, the car wasn't really featured. It was in the scene.
It was in a scene, which is cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
But what kind of car is she rocking?
That's a beautiful Ford Bronco.
Is it ever? And that might be relevant to this week's episode, but we'll see.
100%.
So that's pretty sick.
Oh, for sure.
We heard from one of our cult members, Kenny, on Twitter. It's in reference to our last episode, 6 hours. He said, "Another great one, guys, but you're going to wish you rated 6 hours higher after you watch Test of Faith."
Nice. Kenny's on the level, man. He's on the level. He gets it.
Yeah. You guys were pretty harsh on 6 hours, but I gave it a 6.
We can dive into the stats if you want.
I think Kenny and I have got pretty much a good gauge for what a good Walker episode is. So I think Kenny's in my camp.
He's Team Adam.
So it sounds like he is, because I really like that 6 hours episode. So much, in fact, that Sarah and I recreated Heather Cam 2001 on our website. I'm going to pull it up here, guys. For listeners who listen to our 6 hours podcast.
No way. That's amazing.
If anyone's interested to see what the website was like, go to roundhouseroulette.com/HeatherCam2001, and you will be able to relive the website from 6 hours in all its glory, complete with Netscape Navigator header.
Well, we got a lot to cover here. So for those of you watching along at home and don't want any spoilers for a 30-year-old TV show, hit pause and watch Season 4, Episode 16, Juggernaut, and come on back to us. Welcome back. Let's dig in. This episode originally aired on February 10th, 1998, and it opens innocuously enough in a bar.
I mean, it looks like every bar USA. The clientele is top notch. There's 2 females sitting at a table talking, just girl talk, you know what I'm saying? And then the boys, are they at another table or at the same table?
Same table. They're having man talk, which is about race car driving.
You know, Richard Petty's son is no good.
Typical bar stuff.
Well, yeah. As we know from pretty much every episode of Walker, Texas Ranger we've ever seen, scenes in bars always end with someone running out of the bar with Walker in hot pursuit or a fight. And in this case, there's no Walker, so we'll let you guys draw the conclusion there.
Yeah, this poor sap kind of walks into the bar and sees the 2 lovely ladies talking, and he's just kind of, oh, hey, and kind of tips his hat to them.
Yeah, gives them the Texas hello.
Yeah, exactly.
They're perfectly harmless.
Yeah, his hello may have been harmless, but the response from an overly protective male partner is not.
Yeah, so one of the guys seated at the table sees this, and he's... He would you say he's denim forward?
Very much so, and he is clearly the ringleader.
Yeah, he sees this, and he goes over and he's like, that's my girl. What were you doing? Talk to my girl. And the guy's like, oh, I was just saying hello. Nothing. That's all it was. And his girl is like, hey, no, nothing happened. He was just said hi. He was walking by, and I don't mean any harm by it, the guy says. And the guy in all denim is like, oh, okay. And then the poor sap turns his back to this guy and receives a beer bottle to the back of his skull.
Good start to the episode.
He's downed, and he receives a blazing salvo of kicks.
Complete with Walker sound effects, right?
Oh, yeah.
As if that weren't unpleasant enough. Cut to that same woman who is the crazy, overly protective boyfriend/husband. She is panicked and in her mobile home at the trailer park. And the husband is on the front steps banging on the door with a beer can in his hand. And she's inside trying to relay her address to the 911 operator.
Pretty much she's saying, hey, I need someone to come here now. He's outside. He's going to come in. Please help me. And he busts open the door.
And the woman on the 911 line is like, oh, wait, so who is he? Okay, and he's your husband. Okay,
Right.
Where are you?
Right.
And then eventually...
What is your address? What number is it? What number?
Now, is that near the Denny's out on 65?
Right.
No? Oh, it's the next exit. Okay. Oh, I had a friend that lived out there.
Oh, my God.
It's really awful.
Yeah.
And the woman's just like breaking down, terrified.
It was terrible. And then, the crazy husband breaks in, still in all denim, a few more beers deep, and
Still in all denim.
she literally starts kind of cowering by the kitchen sink, and he walks in, and they kind of pull the camera to the floor, but imply that he starts wailing on her. And it's really a harrowing scene to start an episode on, and you're already like, oh man, am I ready for Walker to tackle domestic abuse? I'm not sure, but I'm already in. And he's wailing on her, and as he's wailing on her, you realize, oh my God, they're using the same sound effects they use for a Walker fight for him to hit her.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to. That's how anyone gets hit. You also noticed that the phone was off the hook, and the woman was still, hello? Are you still there? Should I send someone out?
Yeah, worst 911 operator ever.
Oh, no.
Worst. So bad. And I guess now, they can trace the call, and back then, I guess they needed an address, but yeah, really awful.
The husband, he even knows the phone's on and says, you're going to really get it now.
Yeah. Evidence.
Yeah, I'm like, she hears what's going on.
I don't know if that woman hears anything on the other.
No. But if this were a modern TV show, they would cut away and imply that a beating happened. Instead, this episode stayed on it for way too long. Way too long. It's
Yeah.
like, what? This is awful. No, just stop. Please.
And they use the campy sound effects for it, which really fights against what they're trying to do, I think. A moral lesson that hitting women's bad. From the start, we're already like, ugh, this is going to be a rough ride.
And it is. Cut to the courthouse where Walker, Alex, and Trevette are entering the stairwell, and they pass by a couple of officers bringing an unorderly prisoner up towards his cell. And Alex is like, oh my God, it's Brad Furnell.
And Brad Furnell is the guy we just saw beating his wife.
Yeah,
I think he's still in the same clothes.
Denim level?
Yeah, midnight.
100%. Yeah. And Walker's like, how do you know her? And she's like, oh, his wife Connie is in my women's group. And Walker's like, your group for battered women? And it's like, she talks to everybody about this group for battered women. So she's just sharing everyone's names around about this battered women's group.
She's in my battered women group. So how's her marriage going? pretty good then, right?
Oh
Right.
my gosh!
Talk about
Isn't that the whole point of like having those groups is privacy and have a safe space to talk about stuff? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. No, she's just telling everyone all about it. It's cool. As she's explaining how bad this guy is and how often he beats on his wife Connie, he breaks free, pushes 2 cops down the stairs, and then that forces Walker to escort him to his cell. And once he gets to the cell, Brad's all like, "Oh, you lawmen, you're all the same. You think you're so tough, but you're hiding behind that badge."
He actually calls Walker a cop. I don't think we've ever heard that before. He doesn't call him a ranger.
He's probably a couple drinks in, so, you know. And keep in mind that Brad Farnell, his actor, is like a good 1.5 feet taller than Chuck Norris.
For what it's worth, he does play a great wife beater.
If that's a compliment.
Just going to leave that there.
Yeah. So Walker's like, "All right." And he tells one of the cops there, "Oh yeah, just take off his handcuffs." And so the guy takes off his handcuffs, and then Walker's like, "What you gonna do?" And there's like a good 10-second stare from Walker directly at Brad. And he's like, "Nah." And he just chickens out.
Walker calls his bluff.
For sure.
He's like, "I didn't think you would want to take me one-on-one."
Meanwhile, at the hospital, Alex is visiting Connie and literally saying, "I told you what would happen."
Yeah, and we're like, "Don't you want to play it with a little more kid gloves than that?"
No, you just full-on guilt trip. Full on. Because that's definitely the way to treat someone who's just been abused, is to tell them it's their fault.
Yeah, victim shaming.
Yep. Yep.
Good work.
Well,
Awesome.
We'll see if it works in this episode, but
Well, we will see. They try it again. The next scene in the courtroom. Now it's the judge.
Yeah, this is one of the most disturbing parts of this episode, I think, is where Alex represents Connie, this abused woman, in a courtroom in front of a judge, and Brad has his attorney with him. And Brad's argument is this is a matter between a man and a woman. This isn't a matter that should be held up in court or anything. Which clearly fell through twice because they've already been in court twice. And the judge is all like, "Well, you've brought him to court and then dismissed the charges twice. Why aren't you just going to do it again?" And Alex is like, "Well, she promises to." And the judge says this, and I quote, "I have murder, rape, and robbery coming in this courtroom this afternoon. I will not have my time wasted by a woman who will not resolve her problems." And you'd think, hearing this quote, "Oh, this judge must be some brazen male or something." No, it's an old woman actress saying this. It's like, what?
Yeah, I don't understand why they even went there, but okay.
So this judge is blaming her because she won't resolve her problems.
Her problems being her husband beating the crap out of her.
Yeah, and keep in mind that this woman is her face is all bruised and it's awful.
Yeah. And she wears them the rest of the episode.
It's just okay, so a robbery case is more important than this because, as we all know, judges rank the importance of their cases by the perceived severity of the crime. That's about it.
And at this point, it kind of felt like a Law & Order SVU episode, but in the upside down.
So then we learned that Alex is planning to take her ladies group out to the lake house, and she's asking Walker if he can come along to teach self-defense, and he's like, "Oh, I would, but I've got the Kick Drugs Out of America event this weekend and I can't make it, but you can go, Trevette." And Trevette's like, "Okay." And
Right.
Walker's like, "And CD can come and he can teach you how to fish." And Trevette's all like, "I know how to fish." And Walker's like,
"I don't mean at a singles club."
A singles club.
And I'm like,
find one of those.
"What?"
yeah, and I was like, "Oh, sick burn." But then Trevette's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
So did Trevette think that Walker was sending him
To a singles club?
to the lake house with a bunch of formerly battered women to pick up chicks?
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
What is that all about?
That kind of does imply that. Holy crap.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
So they show up at the lake house, and it's great. And of course, we've seen and reviewed Last Hope, where Trevette and CD go to Lake House with a bunch of at-risk people and Alex, and trouble ensues. So we know that things are probably not going to go very smoothly here. But things start out rosy, just like little Mila Kunis in her teen camp for Rangers.
Yeah, was this the same camp?
Might be the same set.
Mignon was saying that they reused that camp for other episodes. So, I mean, there's the Camp Justice episode. There's the Ranger Teen Camp episode.
Last Hope.
In this one, we learned that this camp is named Camp Cahill.
Yeah, right.
It is?
Yeah. They say it once, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Another camp? Because we've had enough camps already. But it kind of changes the way you look at the episode if you hear that, Evan.
No, it just makes me like it less.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Okay, so they end up at Camp Cahill, and Alex is playing her typical save yourself, and Connie gets out of the car, and she's like, Connie, we may look different, but the one thing we all have in common is that we can talk to each other and we can give each other support. Q2 CD showing off some fishing lures.
Now you fish, Evan. Did CD know what he was talking about there?
I've never heard of a blah 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 warbler. What he was showing is a musky lure, which is like a giant spinner, but he apparently had a name for it and he wanted to patent it. This is classic CD Trevette banter back and forth, because Trevette, he's from Baltimore, so there's no way he knows anything about catching fish on the end of a string. CD is literally showing him the ropes.
I believe he calls Trevette a city boy.
Yeah. But it's okay, because Trevette calls him Big Dog, and that's something.
Yeah, sure, that's equal.
Meanwhile, while CD's showing off his fishing lures, telling fish stories, women are telling their own stories around a campfire, where a woman sort of bravely talks about her story, and it becomes pretty obvious at this point that this camp and this session of the camp came around solely to help out Connie. It doesn't really seem like the other women get anything out of this, and once we get to the end of the episode, what they're getting out of this is not positive. That's for sure. So they were clearly brought to this camp just to scare straight Connie.
Now, I kind of got the impression that this was a regular thing. I mean, it was literally named Camp Cahill. So it was a regular gathering. And we know this because the African-American woman who's telling her story pretty much says, once my man started hitting me, I just told him I was gone. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then again, Alex, with no kid gloves whatsoever, comes in and says, no, we all know that's not what happened. We all know that you didn't leave right away.
Right.
It's not helpful to anybody else unless you tell the truth. And It's true, but she should do that on her own time without being made to feel even worse about it in front of other people who are her peers.
Mm-hmm. So Alex forces her to admit that it was 2 years before she left her boyfriend who was abusing her. And in response to that, she basically loses it and has to be consoled. And Connie is suitably weirded out and leaves.
Right. And she doesn't want to tell her side of the story about Brad and Denham.
Well,
Denham
Alex
Brad.
hasn't really cultivated a particularly safe space.
No, it's pretty aggro, actually.
It's very aggro.
You will tell the story the way it happened.
Right. And again, Evan, you didn't realize it was called Camp Cahill, but from right around here, the way that she was dealing with her, I'm like, okay, well, maybe if Alex was abused, and is kind of on their same level, she might be able to get away with that kind of thing,
Sure,
and I'm thinking, oh, wait, but the camp is named after her, so maybe she was abused. So we'll see what happens,
Maybe give her the benefit of the doubt.
At this point, I did.
So Connie runs inside and she meets CD in there, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. And it's like, what? What is CD doing that you're afraid of disturbing him from? But he's like, oh no, come on in. And he tells his story about some young girl who came in and found salvation at Camp Cahill. And I quite frankly wasn't really listening to anything CD said because he had this sly grin on his face and the most outlandish pants.
Those pants are like, they got to be touching his nipples.
Bob, how many inches above the belly button do you think the hemline was on those things? Or the waistline?
Yeah, geez, I'd give it a good 3 inches above the belly button.
At least.
And CD is a rotund individual. He's got a nice, substantial belly.
And so he's a male, right? I mean, a male at a woman's retreat at night, and she accidentally bumps into him, and he's like, hey, come into the other room, and could you do me a favor?
Little weird, yep.
And she comes in, and he's like, just want you to listen to this story. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you for dispelling that, CD.
Yeah. He also asks for a happy ending. Yeah. We can edit that out, too.
No, I think we have to leave that in.
I think we have to get into that.
So he tells this story of this girl, right? And I'm thinking, typical screenwriting 101, this girl is actually going to be Alex.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. That's good.
Dude, no way. That is not Walker, Texas. No.
The camp is called Camp Cahill, and she's talked about battered women in other episodes. So he gets to this story, right? And CD says, there was this young girl, and she was the lady of the night. And Connor's like, you know what? I don't want to hear this. You know? And then he goes, but then she came to this camp.
She went back to school, finished her high school diploma or whatever, and then told them that she wanted to create her own women's group.
So you could see again where I'm like, this is all leading to that girl being Alex. That sets it up even more.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all, but
no,
I get it.
It's more of the self-congratulatory, other people want to do what I'm doing, so I must be doing something great.
Right. And then after he's done telling the story to Connie, who's just, again, been beaten by her angry husband and Denim Brad, CD's like, before you go, do you think you might be able to give me a happy ending? And then she looks at him like, what? And then he goes,
no, she didn't even respond. Like, her mind didn't go where ours went.
Right. But she looks at him and like, what is he going to say? And we're all like, what is he going to say?
Yeah.
And he's like, can you give me a happy ending to your story too?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, thank God, CD. Thank God you're one of the good ones.
He sure is.
That would be a huge twist in the show. They just cuff him and bring him away.
Like CD is just like a complete degenerate.
It would have taken about 30 minutes to take his pants off too.
He's got like suspenders with a button in the back.
Oh my gosh. Those are the highest pants I've ever seen CD wear.
By far, yeah. It was surprising. It was jarring.
Oh, but thank God they were that high too, because those women are safe.
Oh my God. Oh man. Meanwhile, back in jail, Brad made bail, and his skeezy compatriot gets him out. And he's like, what are you going to do now? And the guy's like, well, I'm out of jail. I'm going to go find my damn wife. He called his house and she wasn't there. The neighbor was. And the neighbor blabbered that she was out somewhere with Alex Cahill at some camp. So he's like, I'm going to go find her.
Doesn't he call Alex a bitch?
At some point, probably.
And his wife, he calls her a bitch too at the beginning. Is bitch a swear? I think it is, right?
Not if you say it on CBS in 1996.
That's true.
Yeah, but they don't even.
Then again, many things have transpired on this show that probably wouldn't fly nowadays.
Yeah,
but not swear words.
But let the record show that Brad throws around the B word.
Yes, and we know that there are just bad things afoot. This guy, he's an unstoppable force, like something. I don't know. Hard cut to kick drugs out of America. And this right here, normally I'd be like all against a 2.5 minute long montage of children in wholesome yellow belt sparring.
Right.
for the Kick Drugs Out of America program with wholesome, friendly music. But at this point, I kind of needed the respite.
Yeah, it's been a little dark lately. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. It has virtually no relation to what's going on. It's kids with bowl cuts doing karate.
Oh, that one bowl cut was
Epic.
The solo kid that was doing it by himself. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like museums, when they discover new species, they always have like one representative of that species, and they call it the type specimen. I think that kid's hair would be the type specimen for a bowl cut.
Yeah.
Patient zero.
But 2.5 minutes.
It felt like 10.
It did, but like I said, people aren't talking about getting beat by their husbands, or we're not seeing it or hearing it. So,
but Chuck Norris, he wasn't doing anything. He was like kind of just like he walked into a random dojo, and they just happened to be having a tournament, and he was there on the sidelines for a few seconds.
After the 2.5 minutes of karate, cut back to the camp, and CD and Trevette are having some friendly banter about catching fish and who's going to gut what and who has to carry the fish. Spoiler alert, Trevette, butt of all the jokes. But CD realizes that Connie and another woman are sitting at the end of the dock, and he's like, oh, we should give them some privacy. And this is just another moment for one of the women to tell her horror story to Connie, to get Connie to open up. And this is where I realized this is kind of just like a Christmas Story for Connie, where all these like ghosts of Christmas past are coming and telling their story to get her to realize what she needs to do. And so this woman's like, well, for me, the beatings all started and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I don't need to hear this. Connie probably doesn't want to hear this. And, she's pretty exhausted by this whole thing. And so she's pretty happy to get up to the cookout. And she gets up to this picnic cookout. And she's over, and there's another woman grilling up some hot dogs and buns. And she's like, oh, could you please pass the mustard? And the woman's like, that's what my husband asked. And then he beat the crap out of me.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
Like,
harsh. Oh,
Connie's like,
got dark.
Everything's a booby trap.
Yeah, it was. And she's also grilling wieners while she says it.
All right, I'm not going to go there.
And I was just expecting her to like pop one in a bun and just take like a big bite out of it. Exactly. I was waiting for it. It was like, oh no.
So it's just like Connie can't find respite. She's just constantly getting lectured by these people. It's like really pretty awful.
I wouldn't say it's awful. I mean, it's just, people have to hear other people's stories till they're comfortable with you. If you trust somebody with your story,
no. There are no trust exercises. There's none of that. That's
just all off camera, Evan. We
it's
just
100%.
It was
drop
randomized.
in.
That's where we were dropped in. I'm assuming that all those foot in the water things happened before. They only got 45 minutes here, Evan. They got to go fast. So let's keep going.
Last Hope had the bows and arrows and all that stuff, and
yeah, we know they have archery there.
Yes. So, Connie's been totally dropped in the deep end here and is getting berated from all sides by different stories of abuse. So she just can't get away from it. This is when we cut back to the after party in the locker room for the Kick Drugs Out of America recital. Walker walks in the room, and everyone goes silent.
And these are all like kids in the locker room, right?
And he's like, you guys did a great job. You really represented us well. And he starts shaking everyone's hands. And we learned that the security guard who got pushed down the stairs earlier in the episode, his son must be in Kick Drugs Out of America.
I guess.
I hope. Or else he's just randomly in this locker room.
Yeah, because he comes in and he has bandages on his hands. And did we mention that earlier?
It's pretty irrelevant.
I think we skipped over that whole thing.
But it was weird, like when he fell down the stairs earlier. They have a shot of him being like, "Oh, my hands!"
Yeah, they're like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Oh, it's the wrist."
Did she go like, "Is it broken?"
Yeah,
He's like, "I guess a sprain."
Did think at the time it was pretty weird.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, I'm really glad they paid that off later in the episode."
Came back. Remember me? My wrist. Remember me? I fell down the stairs. My wrist.
I'm the wrist guy. He's like, he comes in his policeman's uniform and his wrists are all bandaged up, and he's like, Walker, Brad got out on bail. We heard that he's looking to find his ex-wife Connie, and he knows that she's with Alex at the camp, and he's headed that way.
Walker's all like, man, I guess I better pay Brad a visit. And so he does the classic Walker shakedown at a local bar. Unfortunately, we don't get a name for this bar, but I bet the name would have been pretty good. But yeah, he goes in, no sign of Brad, but he finds some other guy.
He was one of Brad's buddies that was in the fight at the beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah, he looks awesome. He's actually a stunt coordinator. He's done stunt coordinating for like a ton of different Chuck Norris movies.
He is a mullet, right? Is there a little bit of party in the back on this guy?
Oh, he's got a ridiculous mullet.
But it was tasteful. He actually pulled it off.
Okay, so Walker goes in, right? He asks this waitress, excuse me, have you seen Brad Furnell? And she's all like, nope. He asks for another name. How about Pat Yarnell? And it's clearly him just like ad-libbing a name.
Names. Yeah.
It sounds way too similar to Brad Furnell.
Yeah.
And no one on the actual episode is credited as Pat Furnell. So that right there, that is Chuck Norris improv. Pretty good.
I'm looking for Chuck Norris. Oh, he's not here? How about Wuck Warris?
Yeah.
Yep.
How about Buck Choris?
Right. So once again, it's a bar, and
We got two possible outcomes.
yep, either people run out of the bar chased by him, or there's a fight, and no one leaves this bar.
Yeah, Brad Furnell's friend that was something else that was very similar was the one that bailed him out. And he happened to be sitting drinking at the bar. And Walker's like, yeah, I'm looking for Brad. Where is he? He's like, how would I know? He's like, you're the one that bailed him out.
Oh, snap.
And did they just go right into the fight? There's like a standoff?
He like stands up and gets eye to eye with Walker, and it's important to note that this man is about the same height as Walker, which is fairly rare with bad guys in this show.
This might be one of the best points of the episode.
When I first watched it, I thought that Walker just punched the guy.
No,
I had to rewind it, and then you see it like just right before the guy kind of like leans back like he's going to take a swing. But if you don't pay close attention, it looks like Walker just decks the guy out of the blue.
Oh yeah, no, it's like a classic Walker sucker punch to the face. Just like
So
the guy
good.
is about to wind up to punch Walker, and Walker's so fast that he just like sucker punches the dude in the face, takes him out. It has to be said, this guy who gets sucker punched in the nose is a stunt coordinator. His name is Hank Bomert. And let me just list off the films that he did stunts for. They include Bulletproof, which is a Gary Busey action film. Mm-hmm. Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection.
Oh, yeah.
Sidekicks. Hellbound, which is a Chuck Norris movie where he fights the son of Satan. Top Dog. Forest Warrior. And Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh,
Random.
Wow.
Yep. So, more power to him. And he takes a punch to the face from Walker.
Sucker punch it. It was hilarious. I did laugh because it was so fast.
We don't see that move in newer seasons, but in the older seasons, like that was a classic move where it just like completely takes them off guard by punching them in the face.
It was high noon at the saloon, and he definitely pulled first.
Oh yeah. And if you like Frank Bomert in this episode, which he's probably my favorite bad guy in this episode, he's in like 4 other episodes of Walker, so we'll get to those, I'm sure.
Hopefully with just as fertile a mullet.
He plays a Russian in the Moscow Connection, and I'm assuming a Native American in an episode called Thunderhawk, where he plays a character named Nor. So there you go.
Wow, they're just like, well, he's not white, so he can pretty much play any. Oh God, okay.
He's got a sick mullet.
Oh God,
Sick mullet.
Yeah, the mullet will distract from the nationality he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, yeah, moving on.
We're really doing great on this one. So yeah, Walker has a sick bar fight, and then we get back to the campfire during the daytime. They're kind of sitting around, and they pretty much get Connie to almost break down and tell her side of the story. But Connie then turns it around on Alex. And at this point, I'm thinking Alex is the complete and total savior that she wants to be. Apparently, she's named the camp after herself.
Yep.
And she's basically lecturing all of these victims of domestic abuse on what they should and shouldn't be thinking. And it seems really cringy.
It is very cringy, yeah.
And Connie's all like, how about you, Alex? What's your story? And Alex winds up, and I'm like, wait. Something actually happened to Alex. And she's like, well, it's not about me. I had a roommate in college. It's like, no.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Yeah. What?
A normal movie would have set up CD's story to have more meaning by making it be Alex, especially since the camp's named after her.
It would have been a flashback.
That's what I'm thinking. And then it would also be like, give Alex a little more leeway with trying to help people come out with their story. But instead, what's the story she says? She's like, oh yeah, my college roommate was abused and then she got killed. And you're like, oh, well, that's terrible.
And I really miss her.
Yep. And everyone's like, oh, it's so bad for you. It's like,
we feel your pain.
It's like, yeah, these women were all like horribly abused in like, okay. Yeah. So yeah, she went through some
secondhand abuse,
secondhand trauma,
still
which
bad,
is
still
terrible,
very terrible. Man, this episode is a landmine.
It's a landmine set by Alex Cahill. So, anyways, to defuse the situation, they bring in Trevette in his giant padded suit, and he's going to teach them a little bit of a self-defense class. What ensues is essentially a montage of women harmlessly punching Trevette to like really patronizing music.
And he's kind of like in like one of those suits that whenever they have like a police dog attack somebody, they're in like that inflated suit so that their teeth don't hurt them in real life when they're doing training. That's what Trevette's wearing for protection.
Yeah. So, they start off and like the women are just giving like these really tiny punches, and then they try to ramp it up. But all while they're ramping that up, like they could have picked any music, but instead they pick like this clown music. Like it's funny that women are punching Trevette. It's like, what?
Right. And they're not showing the women how to throw a punch. They're just like, try it again. And one woman literally comes up and taps Trevette with her foot and kind of laughs as if it's fun.
And they're like, great job.
Yep.
Everyone's like, good work. It's like, no, that's not good.
We're like, what? What is happening?
And it culminates in a woman like kicking Trevette, and then he falls over, and they're like, great class. That was fantastic. And then CD bends over to Trevette, and he's like, back in my day, we wouldn't have even had to wear the padding.
Of course.
Good addition, CD.
Yeah, and CD tried to jump in and try to take over the class. And he's like, back in the day, a male would protect a woman, but that's just not like that anymore. And he starts going into this, like, you're like, oh, man.
He's going to mansplain everything.
Yeah, he's going to start that. And then Trevette's like, all right, thanks, big dog. We got this, big dog. And he like big dogs him like 80 times.
Big dogs him right out of there.
Hashtag big dog.
Yeah.
You got big dogged.
So just as the class is concluding, who shows up but Brad, Connie's abusive husband? And everyone's like, what is this guy doing here? My question is, how did he find out where this place was?
Well, it was called Camp Cahill. You can just look it up.
Yeah, he just map quested it.
Yeah, he did Texas MapQuest, which is drive to a gas station, ask where something is. They give you 3 turns worth of directions, and you get to the next gas station. Yeah, so he makes it there, and everyone's like, no, Connie, don't talk to him. And they're like, you're not welcome here.
Yeah, he comes
like,
in, he says, I just want to talk, Connie. I just want to talk, baby. I'm sorry.
Come on,
I'm so
baby.
sorry.
Turns on the charm.
Yeah, and Trevette and CD and Alex are there too with the other abused woman there from the group, and they're standing behind them. So you're like, oh, okay, well, at least they've got some protection too. But it's Connie's choice, Is she going to go with him, or is she going to stand up now? And she goes with him.
Yeah, he's like, let's go somewhere and talk.
Down by the pond, down by the lake.
Where none of these people can see us. Let's go there.
Yep. So she basically tries to tell him that the marriage is over, and then he looks like he's fixing to unleash on her. And Trevette pops out from behind a bush. He's like, yo, man, it's over. You need to go. And she runs behind Trevette, he like tries to do the fake out on Trevette like he did on that poor sap in the bar early on.
Yeah.
But Trevette's ready, parries the blow, punches Brad in the stomach, and he like turns and completely flees.
Yeah, I'll say like Trevette bested him, Trevette, and that was good. I like that,
Yeah.
I think by this point in the episode, Walker had already gotten on the helicopter, right? Why he took the helicopter, they must have had it on the set that day.
Yeah. Walker's on his way to Stewart Lake, the south end of Stewart Lake.
Once he found out, I got to get to the camp as soon as possible because Brad's headed there. Well, the fastest way is via helicopter if you have one.
It's Jim, the helicopter guy again.
Yeah. So I wonder if every time there's a helicopter, they do that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Bob. Walker's on his way in a helicopter already. So,
and at this point, I'm just assuming he's going to come in and just save the day, right?
Oh, for sure. You're like,
absolutely.
They're setting up to have a wife beater in the woods attempting to track down other battered women, and then you're going to set Walker loose in the woods to hunt this guy down. This is like dangling red meat in front of a bear. So I'm just throwing that out there. You know what's
going to happen.
This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm waiting for. I'm like, okay.
Like, if there were ever an enemy begging for an epic 6-part roundhouse kick to the face, it'll be Brad Farnell.
Most definitely.
So Trevette basically gets like 2 blows in on Brad, and Brad turns tail and immediately hightails it out of there. He's like, "Are you okay, Connie?" She's like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "Okay, let's get back to the camp." And they're getting back to the camp, and you hear, "Vroom," and I'm like, "Oh man,
Bronco mania."
Yeah, and a Bronco shows up, and this does not look like it's Mignon's Bronco, which is probably a good thing because they put it through the ringer, doing donuts, crushing through undergrowth, and some other things we'll talk about in a second. But the first thing this guy tries to do in his Bronco is run down Trevette and Connie, and they are narrowly able to dodge it before they run back up to the cabin. At which point, Brad Farnell unleashes the full power of his Ford Bronco by running over probably a dozen or so camping chairs, almost running down Alex and another woman. They're able to dive out of the way, and CD's like, "I'm gonna go get my spray shooter out of the car," and he's like, he goes over to this El Camino, and he's gonna like get his gun out of the car, and Brad must know something's afoot, and he just beelines it straight at CD, who's in this car.
This El Camino.
Yeah, the El Camino. And that El Camino, Brad also takes out a boat with the thing first, which
CD's
I saw the boat.
Probably,
yeah, I saw the boat early on and was like, that boat looks like a real piece. That thing has to just be a prop. And yeah, it was. They destroyed it. And the El Camino, it's like, we haven't really seen an El Camino in this episode ever before, so of course they're going to destroy it. They destroy it how?
The Bronco goes up and over the top.
It's like a jump somehow.
Yeah, the Bronco was pretty high off the ground, and the El Camino's pretty low, but that still would have been just a straight collision, right? Yeah. Unless there was like a ramp in front of it, I don't see how he's getting up and over it. But good thing for CD, the CD was in the cab of the El Camino.
So, this Bronco flies over the El Camino while crushing it, sticks the landing, and continues to pursue people wildly, including Trevette, who's now running into the cabin to get his gun. And he pulls his gun just as the Bronco comes crashing in the porch, bringing the entire front half of the house down on top of it. So we're like, okay, Cahill. CD's out, Trevette's out, and Brad rumbles out of the cab of his Bronco with this giant-ass hunting knife in his hand, and he's like, I'm gonna get him. And the women take to the woods.
So Alex with 4 women who are part of the battered women group, now they literally have a crazed wife beater chasing all of them through the woods.
With a giant knife.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, well, maybe they can outrun them, right? Just as you're thinking that, Connie, Brad's wife, sprains her ankle. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess they're going to have to slow down.
Yeah, this is very like women are the gentler sex here or something. It's like she trips over a log, and she's like, "My ankle, I think I sprained it." And it's not like I think I broke it or like my leg is shattered in 4 places.
I literally said it at my TV before she said it. I was like, I sprained my ankle, and it's like, I sprained my ankle, because it was just like, yeah, all right.
Right, it's like a sprain? Come on now. You can walk that off. You can do this. You're being pursued by a madman who's going to murder you. And she keeps like trying to give up. She's like, I can't do it.
You guys go. He only wants me.
Yeah.
While he's pursuing them, he's shouting to the contrary that he's going to murder like all of them. So, not so good. Meanwhile, Walker shows up on the scene in his helicopter, and he gets Jim to take CD and Trevette into the chopper because they're pretty beat up. He then learns from Trevette that they ran into the woods, so Walker gets his tracker on. He's running through the woods looking for footprints, and who's leaving the footprints but Brad, who I will say is extremely menacing in these scenes in an overly dramatic way. They like show him jumping on logs and stuff, and like,
and his head turns like a snake.
Right, he's like the Terminator. But yeah, Brad catches up with him, but it's only Connie, and it looks like it's the end of the line for Connie.
Looks like all our friends ditched her.
Yeah,
and she's leaned up against a log, nursing her ankle.
Well, yeah. So there's yet another tough love scene from Alex where she's like, "We just went to this whole camp where you're learning about self-worth and overcoming adversity, and you can't get over this ankle?" And Connie's like, "Yeah, no, I can't."
Yeah, no, it stings. It burns.
Oh, man. And Connie's like, "We don't even know where we are." And Alex is like, "That's the sun. That means that's the west. The highway's to the north." And then they just like run off in some direction.
Yeah.
And she says they're never going to leave each other. So when we see Connie, we realize that they probably haven't left each other.
It's a trap.
It sure is. And the women come out from behind trees swinging tree limbs. They take the knife out of Brad's hands, but all I could think of was the final fight scene with Ninja Turtles when they're trying to take out Shredder and they surrender their weapons to get their brother back. And he's like, "Fools, the 3 of you could have overpowered me with the loss of but one." And all I could think of was they're doing one at a time here. They need to all try to take him out at once.
Yeah.
But instead, each one of them goes up individually and
receives a punch from Brad to their face.
With the sound effects.
With the same sound effects Walker doles out to villains.
Yeah.
It was odd.
Yeah,
right?
there's like 6 punches to like women's faces. It's pretty
whoosh,
ridiculous.
Whoosh. It was no. Oh no. And like, yeah, it was like, what? And they're getting literally every woman gets punched in the face with the sound effect from Brad. And then they cut back to Walker in the woods, and he's coming through the woods, and I'm like, I think this whole episode is about empowering women to stand up for themselves, and it's looking like they're setting up Walker to come in and save the day. Yeah. And I kind of want him to. but
what we get is so much better, though, because they finally just overpower this guy. And to me, this scene was kind of like Inglourious Bastards or something. When you see bad guys just get mutilated or just get like completely destroyed, and you're just like, yeah, it's great. And that's what they do. They gang up. They beat the crap out of this guy.
Yeah.
They're kicking him in the face.
They tag team it. Brad's no match for him. And then Walker walks up and he's like,
"Boy, looks like he should have run the other way."
Freeze frame.
End scene.
And we're like, wait a minute. We were just denied Walker taking out a serial wife beater in the woods.
All right. Roundhouse kicking him into oblivion.
Oh, man. He deserved it. If anyone deserved it, it was this guy. But if they did that, this episode would rank even lower for me, I think, because it would have been even more blasphemous if Walker came in and saved the day.
Right.
Well, so while we're here, who was the Juggernaut in this episode? Or what was the Juggernaut? Was it the Bronco?
I'm going to discuss that in my review.
Okay.
Well, that about sums up this episode. We'd love to give a shout out to our friend and collaborator, Adam Lauritsen, who's been drawing the amazing Walkerstrations that you've all been enjoying on our social media. Be sure to check out his other art on Instagram at @ImaginationRunAmok. When we come back, it'll be time for us to each rate Juggernaut on a scale of 0 to 10 boots to the face, resulting in our patented Roundhouse Roulette episode ranking, the complete results of which you can find on our website, roundhouseroulette.com. Don't you dare go away. Don't you do it! Oh, you better watch your back, Ranger. When I get out of here, I'm coming for you.
Shut up. Oh, hey there, podcast listener. You caught me delivering another plaid-clad bad guy off of the county jail. We here at Roundhouse Roulette have pledged to deliver the light of Walker, Texas Ranger to the world. If you'd like to lend us a hand in that mission, please share the pod with a friend or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Likewise, if you'd like to impress your friends with your utter coolness, we've recently added some fresh new merch at roundhouseroulette.com or hit up our Patreon page. Most importantly, though, thank you for listening and making this journey of ours worthwhile.
Hey, Ranger, take these dang cuffs off and I'll make you wish you'd never been born.
Ranger Adam, go ahead and take his cuffs off.
Oh, all right. Okay.
You were saying?
Well, nothing.
That's what I thought. Stop wasting these kind folks' time. Let us get them back to the show.
Welcome back from our playtime. All right. Juggernaut. A huge, powerful, and overwhelming force. All I can say is that Bronco with the cattle grate on the front of it, crashing through houses, jumping over cars, that was the Juggernaut of this episode.
That's what you think it was? It was the namesake of the episode? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was probably the best scene.
Yeah, like that was pretty awesome. To see this car doing unbelievable feats that are physically impossible, and then cutting to a madman behind the wheel cackling with delight. It was pretty entertaining. On a whole, the rest of the episode, tough to watch. One fight, 0 explosions, 0 vehicle chases, 0 roundhouse kicks. I'm thinking back to last week and wondering whether I even want to give it 3. No, it was too bad. I'm giving it 2. Camp Cahill undercut any sort of lessons we could have learned from that experience. So it should have been named after her friend. What's up with that?
Exactly. No kidding.
Right? Yeah, the friend that died.
You're going to take the credit for the pain your friend went through? What? As Walker does, it was very ham-handed. I know they intended to show that domestic abuse was bad, but...
The clown music when they're trying to do like the self-defense thing, like that I almost could have overlooked if they didn't have that snide remark by CD at the end about not wearing padding at all. It's like, okay, well...
You're making it into a joke.
You proved to me that the music was not a mistake. It was intentional.
Yeah, I can't give this one a 1 because that Bronco scene was amazing. The Walker sucker punch was amazing. And even when they do things in a ham-handed fashion, the earnestness of the show in Chuck Norris, you kind of feel like their intention was in the right place.
Sure.
So I'm going to give this one a 2.
I also had 2, and now I really am thinking about going down to 1. But that Bronco, man, that was like the bad guy in the episode. It's just random Bronco.
It was the Juggernaut, man.
That was the Juggernaut. The 2 scenes that really stood out were the beating up Trevette and then the kids' karate, both of which I'm sitting there for like multiple minutes being like, what does this have to do with anything? Like,
imagine if they'd swapped the music when they're punching Trevette and the music during the karate.
I'd have to think about that.
Like happy music when they're doing karate, and then like sort of uplifting epic music when they're practicing punching Trevette. Like even that would have been an improvement.
Right. Oh, it totally would have. And if you took both those scenes and made them about a third of the length, and then you do that, you do a couple other things, you got yourself enough time to have Walker just randomly fight someone else. Or maybe a little more time with the helicopter guy. I don't know.
Yeah, the helicopter was squandered in this. I think they thought that
they just had him for the day.
Yeah,
you know, they had him like booked. They're like, oh wait, we're going to do this.
They're like 99.9% of the time, adding a helicopter makes things better. So let's do it, and they're right. Yeah. But this was that 0.01.
It really was. Yeah, I don't think it deserves a 1. I don't think it's that bad. So I'm gonna stick with 2. You have a unanimous score here.
Well, we've come out on the other side for some episodes too, so it's not like we only agree on the bad ones.
I think that one of the things we've learned is when Walker's trying to teach lessons like this, it never really ends well. The end product is never really that good.
The end product is usually something that wouldn't be able to air on TV nowadays.
Right. Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, that gives this episode a Roundhouse rating of 2 boots to the face. Which I think I can say is the lowest ranking we've given for an episode yet.
There's only up from here, guys.
Boy, I hope so. Although, honestly,
I'm saving a 1.
We have to see the bad ones to remember how good the good ones are.
Yeah, it really does help put things into perspective.
All right, well, I think we can all agree that they just don't make SUVs like they used to.
Shouldn't have let go of that vehicle, Mignon.
But let us know what you think on social media or by emailing us at roundhouseroulette@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll be spinning that roulette wheel and selecting next week's episode. Bob, you ready to spin us out of this abysmal stretch we're in?
Oh, yeah. All right. Come on, get us a winner.
Season 3, Episode 2, Branded.
That sounds promising, Bob. I think you might have done some good work here.
Well, I hope so.
This might be the one with Santana.
Oh, the horse? Yeah.
Because that's a cattle rustling operation.
Branded.
Yes.
Walker and his team investigate a possible link between an illegal cattle rustling operation and the mysterious death of a government inspector.
I mean, let's face it, it's Texas. I mean...
Yeah, they don't like him, clearly.
Yeah. In Texas, there's one thing worse than murdering someone. It's stealing their cattle. So, it's pretty high crime right there.
I'll say, I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that.
Well, we hope you'll join us next week when we share our reactions to Season 3, Episode 2, Branded. In the meantime, share your opinions with us on Facebook or on Instagram at Roundhouse Roulette and on Twitter at @RoundhousePod. And please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week,
may the eyes of the Ranger be upon you. When you're in Texas, look behind you. Oh, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.